Welcome to the Hard Truth Show, guys, and in this edition today, I'm going to be talking about the New World Calendar. Now, there's not really so much new about it because this thing was presented in the 1930s and has slowly been creeping into the hearts and minds of elected officials, leaders of the world, and etc. over time. With that said, I want to, go back that I made a promise a while back that I would be doing a video about this, and I'm going to do it here on the Hard Truth Show. And not just do it as something normal on my channel, because it's not just a hard truth. It's something that everybody better start looking into, whether you go to church on SAT Day, SUN Day, you keep the Father's lunar solar scriptural biblical calendar. Because a lot of people go to church on SAT Day, but they still keep the feast days by the Father's calendar. Still can't compute that one in my mind to this day. Why I can't find the direction in the Scripture where it says keep one calendar for this, one for that, but I'll digress. What I want to say, though, is that I really do look forward to this New World Calendar. Whenever you interchange that out, you could also say New World Order, New World Religion, and I don't really look forward to any of them, including the calendar. But the only reason I look forward to this is because that it's going to do something that I can't do. Okay, I can't make theologians, I can't make pastors, I can't make deacons, I can't even make some church members stop and evaluate this truth. Because it is truth. Where controversy abounds, truth is present. I just had a conversation this past Sabbath, SAT Day person that goes to church on SAT Day, and forgive me because I don't like to say the pagan days of the week, came to fellowship with us on the Scriptural calendar, worship day, and just broke it down for them. And, once again, I asked that person the same question I've asked people for, going on decades now, or this is over a decade now. I guess I've asked this question, as the simple question is, when was Sabbath on the Battle of Jericho? Because it was a 7-day battle. And the answer for that's in the book of 88th chapter of the book of Yeshar, and you can compare that with the notes, I think, of Joshua 5. And it plainly says the battle started on New Moon Day, went on for the 6 work days there. You can count it up, and the next day obviously was Sabbath, which means that the 777 of the Roman calendar we work and live and use today is not the same as the one of the Most Highs. Now, I could go on about the Father's calendar all day long, but my point in case today is to sell you the New World Calendar. Because when you see it, whether you are an SAT Day worshiper, SUN Day worshiper, you keep the Father's biblical scriptural calendar, everybody is going to have to stop in their tracks and be like, is this something I'm going to accept? All right. Now, if you want to check the link below to Wikipedia, I have the link to the World Calendar so that you can take this, review this, look at it, compare it, because it's a great teaching tool that if you cannot see the scriptural calendar right now, when this thing comes about, it is going to be clear as day, because this other one is a complete fraud, and pretty much they tried to copy the Creator's calendar, no doubt in my mind, as I go through this. So the first thing that I want to go over, like I said real quick, is that, and I pointed out earlier, and I leave this challenge out there to everyone, is, like I said, about the Battle of Jericho. Try to compute that in this Roman calendar today. Try to compute that in this coming New World calendar, because the situation's going to come that it's going to confound your mind on just trying to keep up with your own worship day that you have been keeping it if you do a 7-7-7-7 Sabbath, as opposed to the scriptural calendar, because this New World calendar is a trip. It has world days. It has all sorts of crazy radical things that you don't see on the Roman calendar right now, and I'm going to break this all down. But if you start at the top of that information, the big thing that gets pointed out, and I'm sorry guys, I made a lot of notes on this one, is that it's equal throughout. and you might say, well, so what? Well, the Father's calendar is equal throughout. If you look in Exodus, I think it's chapter 12, chapter 16 and I believe chapter 19, and forgive me if I misquoted any of those, but you see where Israel came out on the 15th by night. You see they rested and they received the quail. That was a Sabbath there, and then they started to count 6 work days and a Sabbath for the manna. So there was 2 Sabbaths in a row. And then they rested before the mountain on the 15th, making a 3rd Sabbath in a row. And on a Roman pagan calendar, we can't have 3 Sabbaths that's exactly the same on the 15th day of the month, unless we're starting New Moon Day and then our 4 consecutive Sabbaths, and either starting right back over. You can't have that on a Roman calendar except for, I believe it is in a leap year, where that the 2nd month and the 3rd month, they can have the same dates. Otherwise, you can't have 3 months consistent in a row. But now on this New World calendar, however, you can have that. The crazy thing about it is this: if you look at, you pull it up there, you look at the picture, you look at the dates, everything's continuous, it's consecutive, and the very interesting thought is that you have the 1st, 8th, 15th, 22nd, 29th days on SU Day, all right, the pagan day of the week, SUN Day, okay. The thing about that is the Catholic Church is plainly taken credence that that's their mark of authority, but people don't understand that it don't just go to that day alone. It goes to the whole calendar system, because Daniel 7:25 states that he shall seek to change times and laws. And if you look at I believe it's the New Living Translation, it actually goes on to break down and say the appointed feasts and laws. So that's pretty heavy right there. It's very clear that there's a distinction of trying to change the calendar. Now, if this was instituted to bring you up to speed for somebody that might be like, wow, I don't understand the Creator's calendar. I've always done 777. Or this person over here goes to SUN Day Church. This person over here goes to SAT Day Church, and vice versa. You never really thought about this stuff. This is something that'll really make your head, the gears start turning in your head. In, I believe it was 2011, American Samoa, they changed the international date line around their islands and chain there so that they could do more business with the East instead of being on the West time zone. It was going to be more profitable for them. And so in doing so, when they done that, it actually caused the Seventh-day Adventist Church in Samoa to be now a day off. So they ended up keeping SUN Day, which to a Seventh-day Adventist, that is an abomination above all, practically. So they ended up keeping that as the new Sabbath, because a day was going to be lost in time by the shift. Now, this also is a similar situation, as you can see, around the time of Constantine, I believe in 321 AD, as you see that the SUN Day worshippers, because pagans used to worship on their deity's day. Okay, so that was their appointed day of worship, just like the Most High, we go on his set apart day, right? Well, dictated by his clock in the sky, right? And I'm going to get into some more real notes here in a minute. It's going to show you, man, they're just trying to emulate the Father's calendar, but at the same time honor Satan. Well, what happened was in ancient Rome is, if you look up the stick calendar of Rome, look that up. It was in the Baths of Titus. Just Google stick calendar of Rome. You will see that the first deity of the week was Saturn, okay? And the other deity at the far end was the Sun, right? Or they go by Helios. And guys, forgive me, I'm just not going to break Deuteronomy anymore if at all possible, and take the pagan names of deities into my mouth if at all possible. But I'm still at least going to spell it out for you so you can look it up. Well, what happened was that the SUN Day worship became more predominant than the SAT Day, so it became the head of the week. It became the one that got worshipped. And then SAT Day got booted to the end. So now, see the thing where people say SAT Day has always been the Sabbath since creation. False. Right there. Done. It's done. Right there. And that's a factual statement. It's not even up for debate. I don't even care if you disagree with me right now, because it's a historical fact. You go look it up. Right there it is in front of you. You don't accept that, that's a problem with you, not with me. I don't even care anymore. I don't. I'm going to worship the Most High. I'm going to do it if I'm the only one doing it. And forget all the rest of you if you don't like it. That's just how Luke is anymore. But that's after 10 years of being beat down for trying to do the right thing. Not just the calendar, but so many other things. And I just don't care anymore. Because you're not going to get me in the kingdom. it's only by doing the will of the Father that I'm even going to make it, and through faith in His Son's sacrifice. So when you come to that realization, and when you come to like hard facts like we're talking about right now, is that those feelings and narcissism and all the other drama you deal with people, it just don't matter anymore. Okay, their opinions, thoughts don't matter. Well, you see, the thing is, on a grander scale, if you look at this, like I said, the situation with American Samoa, you look at the situation over here, like I said, with the ancient Roman stick calendar. Here's two examples of a 1 day shift in time. This is a one-time 1 day shift in time. Okay, let me repeat that. A one-time 1 day shift in time. So two different times in the history of humanity, ancient time and modern time, we see an example of somewhere where people were keeping timekeeping, that a shift went in the day of time. So somebody's count was off, right? Or was going to have to be adjusted so it wasn't off. Now, this is not necessary when keeping the Father's clock in the sky, because you see the new moon, it's real simple. You start over your count and a new month. It's real simple, guys, all right? Now, if you look at the calendar that has been proposed, you see a lot of important things people don't understand. Is when you look at Rome, and you look at the beast, you look at Daniel 7:25. We're looking for an institution that's attempted to change the Father's appointed times and His laws. So if we see any calendar system coming out, it's always been coming from Rome. Well, if this new one gets a stamp of approval from Rome, then you know for certain that what I have told you is of a truth, regardless what comes or goes past that. Now, this was brought forward in the 1930s. Okay, so now you got to understand, sin takes quite some time to creep in. Okay, and they want to adopt this ideally in 2023. Now, there's some interesting things to point out, that if you've seen the content from where I filmed at the Restoring the Foundations conference recently this year, that we put together, me and Brother Joel and my wife Abby helped organize that event, is if you see what went on there, is that Ron spoke and said that AI, or he showed in his presentation pretty much that AI would be very efficient around 2025. Okay, it'd be pretty much the point of no return. We see a lot of transitory things taking place right now in our time that we're living in, with the RFID chips, with this vaccine thing coming for Rona 19. We see AI growing. We're seeing one world order being set up. We're just seeing so much stuff in motion, forward motion. And so this is a very clear timetable that this could also take place. And I'm not saying that it may ever take place. What I'm saying is this is something to learn from, because it is completely opposite of the Father's calendar. And if it does go in place, it will be the most massive pumping of the brakes in houses of worship that has ever taken place. All right? So what they try to sell you on with this calendar is its benefits. Okay? Well, it is exact repetitive dates relative to week and month. Now, folks, this is not like my wording made up. You can look in the thing. They actually say this stuff. And you say, well, okay, so what, Luke? Sell me that. Well, see, the Father's calendar is very simple. You have New Moon Day, then you have 4 complete sets of weeks, ending with a Sabbath. Now, if you have an additional day at the end of the month, 29, 30 day, depending on what month it is, then, some people keep that as an additional New Moon Day. Some people just count it as a translation day. The more I look at it, the more I feel like it may possibly be an additional New Moon Day. Evidence for this is like when David was running from Saul, Jonathan shot the bow over the rock, or the arrow over the rock to let him know. Well, then you read in the scripture, it says the second day of the new moon. It literally could mean, literally the second day of the new moon. Some people may count that as the second day of the month. But interestingly enough, regardless how you keep it, the thing about it is before Isaiah told Hezekiah in scripture, do you want the sundial to go forward or backward? And, Hezekiah was like, a small thing for it to go forward, make it go backward. And it did. Well, from that time forward, I believe there was a adjustment to the calendar, because you look in the days of Noah, it was 30, 30, 30, 30. It seemed like how the months were counted out. And I also believe that when the Father returns and the new kingdom set up, that's exactly how things will go back to as well. But nevertheless, if you look at how the Scriptural calendar, and you want to check this out at worldslastchance.com, they have a great calendar app for this, so you can better learn the Father's calendar and look how it in comparison to the Roman calendar today. the Father's calendar has repetitive dates, the dates of the weeks, everything, the numbers are always the same. You can remember this. And the next thing, literally, that they pointed out in this new world calendar is a world calendar can be memorized by anyone and used similarly to a clock. And that's exactly how it is with the Father's calendar. It's a clock in the sky. You can literally memorize it. And they're literally trying to emulate the Father's clock in the sky. And I think this will be the final version of Babylon. I really do, guys. And of course, I also say that, for the pagans, the quarterly statistics are easier to compare. And that, you look at the reason why that in American Samoa that they changed over to be with China. They done that for money. It's real simple, folks. You always look, there's a root cause of why things are done in whatever manner they are. And right there, that's what it was explained. Now, you got to understand, though, that they also went down to explain that there was religious exemptions or objections to this. It disrupts the 7-day weekly cycle. However, if you look at the Father's calendar, it always restarts with a new moon. Something that's never spoken about or pointed out that I see in the church house either is that New Moon Day never seems to be a thing to pause and worship the Father. But yet in Ezekiel 46:1, it plainly states that in the day of the new moon and in the Sabbaths, the gates will be open for worship. But in the weekdays, in the work days, they won't. That shows there's 3 different classes of days right there. No doubt about it. And, if you look at this, they made the objection about that if, you do this calendar layout, a week with World's Day would be 8 days long. Now replace World's Day with New Moon Day, just starting your count over again. They see that there's a disruption, and that's exactly interesting, because if you look at the Battle of Jericho, New Moon Day, then 6 work days, and then there was a Sabbath. You see a delineation there between days as well. And because people will be like, well, that's no big deal. One of those days could have been Sabbath. The Most High could do whatever. He, what is it, Malachi 3:6, I'm Yahuwah, I change not, I believe is the scripture. Why is it then in the book of Maccabees in the 1st chapter that people were literally dying because they wouldn't fight on Sabbath? But yet I'm supposed to think that all the way back to the Battle of Jericho they're fighting. Get out of town. What's wrong with you people? See, that's what I'm saying. People try to explain this stuff away. And yet, the interesting thing is as people use these arguments to explain away the Father's calendar, these are the same arguments being made against the world calendar coming into play. So it's educational to me, because it's like I can see reverse construction of this thing. Now, they also say that the seventh day would have to be kept, causing it to drift by 1 day each year, or 2 on a leap year. And this is exactly right, because see, on the world calendar it has world days. And these world days, they come at the end of the year. And then on a leap year, there's one in the middle of the year and one at the end of the year. And this is to adjust things out. But the thing is, they don't count as a day of the week. They're just a holiday, a non-day. But yet, that's exactly, in a way, how it works in the scripture, is the new moon day is the new moon day. And then you work 6 days in a Sabbath, work 6 days in a Sabbath, work 6 days in a Sabbath. And, it's strikingly odd to me. I was looking that, a lot of my friends and people I know, like right now, they're about to keep Feast of Trumpets on the 18th of the pagan calendar, because that will be New Moon Day of the 7th month. But yet, I'm keeping it on that same day as well. But yet my Sabbaths are continuously going right through the Roman calendar. So like they keep SAT Day worship, but yet they still keep the Father's calendar on the money, on the feast. Yet if you followed it fully through, you would be keeping the Sabbaths on it as well. It's just so easy. But yet, everyone wants to complicate it. And I think a lot of people go to church on SAT Day and SUN Day because it's easy. Because if they really had to put skin in the game, if they really kept the Father's calendar in His appointed times, it would cost something. And let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it's cost me friends, jobs, a marriage, money, status, opportunities. It costs something, and I don't regret it. But what I'm telling you is everything comes at a cost. And the SAT day worship and SUN day worship doesn't cost a lot of nothing. Matter of fact, the wild thing about it is that it doesn't cost you hardly anything, to the point that in the New World calendar, because it will be disruptive to the mentality of continuous weeks, that people are actually concerned, because now they're going to have to make adjustments. So let's run this. You're a staunch SAT day worshiper, and the first year passes. Now then you know that it should be on SAT day, but you actually, because of the world holiday, now you have to keep it on the SUN day. Or now the next year there's 2 days, so now it's pushed you all the way up into W day in the middle of the week, because it's just continuous motion moving through this calendar that's having pause days, world holidays, just like the Father's calendar does New Moon Day and then starts a work week, and then 4 complete sets of weeks ending with a Sabbath, or ending with starting over at the new moon. And you also look and you have this issue where that all the time Sabbaths are given dates, and in Scripture it's always the 8th, 15th, 22nd, 29th days of the moon. Not only that, but like, holidays, set apart feast days, are always given these dates that are consistently the same. So like, for example, let's look at the world calendar right now, okay? Because a lot of people, I talk about the Father's lunar solar biblical calendar, and they just turn their head. They stop their ears, close their eyes, don't want to hear it. Well, let's talk about the world holiday. Let's take this example. And I believe it is the 10th day of the month. If you do not have a lamb for Passover, a man is to go purchase one. And he is to keep it up for those days until the 14th, and then slaughter it at evening, right? Simple enough, right? No objections in the courtroom today? Well, then, let's say on the New World calendar, you say that SAT day is the 14th, that we're going to say that the feast days, we're going to keep them as they needed. But yet, at some point, SAT day will roll around and be on the 10th of the first month, right? But yet, you're going to need to buy a lamb that day, and that is a mandatory day to purchase a lamb. But yet on the Father's lunisolar scriptural calendar, that's not an issue, counting from New Moon Day. The 10th day is never a Sabbath. But you have that discrepancy. Then you also still have this discrepancy about the Battle of Jericho. And you know what's crazy? I leave this as an open opportunity to anyone out there, assembly, pastor, deacon. You just have to have an assembly. It's the only thing that I have to come there to debate. That's the only 2 things. Is that if you look at that, I have never had anyone invite me out to have a civil discussion, public debate about the Father's calendar. I've never had nobody in over a decade now ever have that opportunity open up, because there's nothing to discuss, because at the end of the day you're going to be left with so many lingering questions that you can only answer with the Father's calendar. Not to mention is then when, in honesty, if we look back at the stick calendar, the Fastiantiatis Roman pagan calendar of the Republic with an 8-day work week, you look at the Julian to Gregorian calendar, you look at all these mess ups in the calendar and sit there and still try to sell me that SAT day has always and always will be the 7th day, you have lost your mind. Period. Point blank. And there's just too much history behind. And now we have this world calendar coming that's going to, no matter how proud, no matter how haughty, no matter how arrogant, is going to bring all people to the table. Not because you want to come to the table, not because you would want to even be at a table with me maybe over the calendar, but it's going to bring you to the table with the people that you minister to, or you as a believer, it's going to bring you to the table of looking at the calendars, because you're going to be presented with some abomination that you can't stomach. And the only people that it already will not affect is the people keeping the lunar solar scriptural calendar, because we already deal with this drama. We deal with having to go to our employer and explain that, the Father's calendar floats through their work week, and that there's going to be days we're not there because this Sabbath, this moon, it's on TH days or it's on F days, and we're not going to be here for 4 weeks. We already go through all this stuff. This is nothing new to us, but see, now it's going to be new to you. And just like the folks in American Samoa that bit off more than they can chew, saying continuous 7-day week, because SUN day, now they're worshiping on it. And you would never hear that in the Seventh-day Adventist Church, but yet here it is. And we're in the modern 20th century, and it's going on. Folks, we're living in the last days. And, right here, the thing is, the last note I want to make on this before I say a few final comments is supporters argue that world days and leap year days can be treated as double holidays by those who wish to maintain the 7-day week, which is exactly how that things are going right now. I mean, like, had this not been a 30-day month, it would go from Sabbath to the 7th month, New Moon Day, which is also Feast of Trumpets. I mean, guys, that's exactly what goes on the Father's calendar often. But yet, right there, people can't compute that on the New World calendar. And folks, please understand, I'm not for the New World calendar. The only benefit of the New World calendar, if instituted in 2023, because they wanted to do this like in 2015, I think was an ideal time. I think it was 2015, 2017, 2023. These are the prime opportunity to implement that because it can transitory right into the new year. The thing is if this is put into place, a lot of people are going to be faced with two situations. Number one, which is why I don't think I ever will be asked to debate anyone. No one will ever want to debate, is that it is going to cause you to do two things. To look at history and to look at where you're headed. And where you're headed, I always say anymore, the past is indicament of the future. And where what went on years ago, millennia ago, we're seeing a situation take place here in the near future, possibly. And you cannot erase the facts. A lie only lives for so long. I believe it's Ron says that on his thing about the Hebrews, that a lie can only live so long. And forgive me if I misquote him, but that's exactly the situation here. I mean, this lie is only going to live so long, and a lot of people are going to be forced into a conjecture where that it's either, okay, I acknowledge that I have been in error, and I am going to correct my path, and furthermore, I'm going to try to honor the Father and do His will, because this is the one commandment, to remember the Shabbat day. It literally is the only one that says remember. So I'm going to do it right. The other people are going to make an excuse and go with the flow. I mean, look at it. Seventh-day Adventist Church in Samoa just made an excuse and went with the flow. That should have been a prime time for them to stop, hit the pause button, and ask, how did we get here? How did we get to here? This is crazy. But instead, they just accepted it and went with it. And I hope you're not like that. I hope that you take this opportunity that I've talked about, the New World Calendar, compare it with the Father's calendar, compare it with the Roman calendar, compare the Roman calendar with the Father's calendar, and look and see that, man, these are three different formats. The one coming is an abomination and really a copy of the Father's calendar, but geared toward the worship of Rome. I mean, like, for crying out loud, the beginning of the quarters of each quarter starts out the first day, 15th, 22nd, 29th day of the month with worship to Rome. I mean, like, how much more abomination can you feed someone? And guys, listen, I'm not here to beat up on nobody. Man, I used to go to SUN Day Church. I woke up to the Sabbath, the 7th day, went to keeping it ASAT day, going to Seventh-day Adventist Church. Then I figured out that the Father's calendar in Rome is not one and the same. And so here I am a decade later in this walk. And so, at the end of the day, if you don't care for what I had to say today and you don't accept it, no, I'm not offended. I actually just don't care. Because like I said earlier, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. Now, it's up to you to take the information I provided to you and decide what you're going to do with it. But there's going to come a time where that you're going to have to ask yourself the question, whom is it you worship? Because the calendar dictates when you worship, how you worship, and who you worship. And so if you're worshiping via the wrong calendar, you're probably worshiping the wrong creator. Not so much the wrong creator, you're worshiping the wrong entity. Because if you're trying to worship the Father, you may in ignorance be giving that worship to the wrong entity on the wrong calendar on the wrong day. And the thing is, guys, I'll leave this caveat with you, is that if you look in the history, especially of ancient Israel, that any time they went into apostasy and worshipped false deity, they often worship the hidden deity, STUR, or, the Chiun, Renfan, all these. That's what got, what's his name in the New Testament, stoned. Stephen stoned. So, because he pointed out that Israel worshiped the hidden one, Saturn. It's always been the go-to for Israel whenever they've fallen away in apostasy. And we look at it today, and now that I know who the true Hebrews are, many of them still do just that, worship on Saturn Day. And, hopefully people's going to wake up and get back to the Father's lunisolar scriptural biblical calendar. But guys, I hope this information I provided you today will be of a help to you. It'll inspire you to look into it. As always, till we see you again here at Seven Trumpets Prepper Channel and on the Hard Truth Show. Glad to have you here, and hope the Most High Yah Baruch and keep you, make his face shine upon you, show you favor, and give you shalom, my friends. In Yahushua name.